All right, so this is part two. One thing that I did have to add that I didn't show in the last one was this top rail here. And what I did is I put a center section inside here and welded it in so that it adds support to this, because this potentially could be used to draw vehicles on. And looking at this and preparing for the winch mount, I don't want the winch supported solely by this, because it'll bend. I mean, there's you could try to supporting it, etc., etc. But what I'm going to do is it's going to be a slide-in receiver for the winch, and I'm going to basically build the receiver here. It'll come up the platform. You'll be able to slide the winch in from this direction and then draw vehicles on, and it'll be mainly supported here. And then I'll also probably bring a support down also to help support the receiver that the winch will go into. So that way the majority of this of the force will be transferred to this large 5/16 2.5 inch tube. So I'll do that, and I got my little roll up here because I'm getting tired of balancing this thing on jack stands. So that's all together, and now I am going to get the scuffing pads and get dirty. Okay, I'm finishing up my day. I just got done pressure washing. I have wire brushed the chunkies of all that rust off, and then the paint and the light rust I've knocked off with the disc. Let me show you these discs. These are pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, these, it's a plastic, and it's less aggressive than a grinder will be, so it'll take the rust and the paint off without chewing up the metal or gouging it. So I like these. These are nice. I really couldn't think of any real use for them until I got into this, and now it makes a big difference. So I got that, and I had to use a chipping hammer to get some of the larger rust scale off. But basically, this thing is good. I've got one platform over here that needs to be fixed and resupported. I think I might be able to get away with just putting a piece of angle iron in there to re-support it, because it's rusted through and it's bent. But it's about ready to put the rust converter on, and I'm only going to put the rust converter on the areas that were really suffering from the rust, you know, the sections that were under the wood, etc. And then everything else will get that Rust-Oleum Farm Implement paint. And so we're getting really close to being able to put a deck on this thing and lights. So getting closer. All right, let me show you. I got my first coat of rust converter on the trailer, and this is what I'm using. And my only concern is that it's a water-based product, and it says don't use any oil-based thinners or agents or anything like that, because if you do, it could create a tear in the time-space continuum, and all life as we know it could stop existing. So that's a concern, because I'm going to be painting it with the Farm Implement, which is an oil-based paint. So I'm hoping that if I let it dry sufficiently and cure up, that the oil-based paint will not corrupt it. But I've got all that dark paint there, that's a primer slash rust converter. Goes on pretty well. It covers a lot. I've got basically a half gallon, and I've got twice as much as I need. So I'm going to brush the second coat on. It's a nice sunny day here in Florida towards the end of February. So I'm going to put this in there, and let's take a look at the winch that I bought for the trailer. Okay, I went to Harbor Freight. I got their portable winch mount, and I decided to compromise and get a smaller winch. This is a 5,500 pound. I've used a 3 in the past on my trailers, and it kind of was overworked for some of the bigger vehicles that had locked up brakes, etc. But you can always compensate with that with a snatch block, which doubles the pulling capacity. But this is going to be pretty nice. It's compact. I don't have to bring 400 amps of capacity to the winch. And the only thing that I had to do with this was this mount was already pre-drilled, and it put one of the terminals on the battery motor almost right up against the frame here. So what I did is I moved those 4 mount bolts backwards 3/4 of an inch, which put me close to center. And this is the mount that comes with the winch. So I basically just clamped this mount in place where I wanted it and re-drilled the holes in this. So that's going to work out good. And I'm thinking that I'm going to cut this mount, because this is the mount for the fairlead. And here's the little baby fairlead. And I'm going to weld that. I'm going to cut it and weld it to the front of this. That way I don't have to make something else. So got that. And then we'll pre-fit this on the front and weld up a receiver mount for it. Okay, hang in there. We're slowly getting this done. Okay, something else I want to talk about. I've generally been really happy with the Ryobi performance and the battery operated tools. And for whatever reason, and I'm testing something out, for whatever reason, when we had that freeze here in Florida and it was cold for a couple days, I lost like 3 batteries. And I'm like, there's no way. Sure, I dropped these batteries and I beat them up pretty hard, but it's not a coincidence that they failed during the cold. And so what I did is I said, okay, what's the chances of 3 batteries out of 6 or 7 failing at the same time? Or could it be the charger? So I bought a new charger. That was $100. I got it delivered via internet. And so it came in. It's a newer version of what I've got up there. And so my suspect is, okay, maybe the charger's going bad. I've had it for about 5 or 6 years. So I've got the new charger. We're going to see if it brings these batteries back to life. And another thing that you guys need to be aware of is Lowe's is the closest hardware store to me, and I always buy the drill bit kits that are on sale. And drill bits is a consumable. They get eaten up, and you can waste a whole lot of labor trying to drill holes with dull bits. And true, I've got a sharpener, etc., etc. The sharpener does work for the larger bits, but not so much for the smaller. So I always just buy a bunch and run through them. But I recently at Lowe's bought the Craftsman because they were on sale. And I've got to tell you that these Craftsmen are by far so much better than the DeWalt's. They don't chip as easily, and they stay sharp a lot longer than the DeWalt's. So even if it's a couple dollars more expensive for the Craftsman, I'm going to buy the Craftsman. So that's a little fabricator tip, what I've observed. If you've observed something different, post it in the comments. All right, this is the last. I might do some touch up because I'm going to have to do some welding to get that hitch receiver or the winch receiver on, but I basically extended the rust converter over most of it, and I think on the outside areas on the rails and stuff where you can potentially see brush marks, etc., I'll probably sand those down. Now I'm talking, I just don't know, I might get too lazy and not do it, but it's basically mostly almost all, as far as it's going to go, primered. Okay, I'm killing it. It's Friday, end of the week. I'll probably work on it Saturday. I know I shouldn't, but I always do. But check this out. I've got the portable winch in place. I'm pretty happy with that. This is actually a universal UTV receiver, and I just had to take and add a 2.5 inch block to raise it up. It's going to clear, and if there's any chance that that cable is going to catch on that beam there, I'll take and clearance that beam so that the rope doesn't hit. But look at it, look at it. Pretty nice. I like it. And the best thing is, you know, this is not a big winch, but I can move this winch to my Cherokee. It's my daily driver. It's not really a serious off-road rig because I wouldn't want to beat it up. But if I do go out, I can bring that with me. Check it out. I'm so happy. And this, I'm pretty impressed with this water-based paint. I mean, it seems pretty durable. I can't scratch it with a fingernail, so I'm going to let it sit tonight, and then tomorrow I'll check it out and see if I want to start spraying it down. This is not going to post yet. It'll probably post the early in the week. That way I can get everything done. Depends. I haven't gotten fenders yet. I went to Tractor Supply, and they have fenders, but they're like 5 inches shorter than the ones that I took off. So at $230 a piece, that's $460. I think I can buy some 10 gauge sheet metal, some angle iron, and build my own. It's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Will that all get on the part 2 video? I don't know, because once it gets around 20 minutes I want to post it, so we'll see. Okay, check this out. I got the last top coat on. In order to shoot the Rust-Oleum implement paint, I had to thin it out quite a bit. So I thinned it out. I used acetone. And you basically want to thin it out, because I was trying to shoot it. I even went to 40 psi to shoot, and it was just too thick to spray with any volume. So I added acetone to it until it was runny like water. You don't want it thick and drippy. You want it to be very thin. Okay, and so I put enough acetone in there. If I had to guess, it was probably 4 parts paint and 1 part acetone. But anyway, it went on here really well, and it dried quick, and I was able to hand spray all this, and it looks really good. I mean, I did not sand down and patch up the all the rust dimpling and stuff like that in the pitting, because it's a trailer. It's made to work, and I'm happy with it. And considering how fast this stuff is drying, it'll be ready to go on Monday. Today is Saturday, but it'll be ready to go on Monday. I'd give it 24 or 48 hours to harden up. The everything looks real good. Let me show you the winch. So I've got the winch control box that I got to wire up, and I've got plenty of clearance, even in front of the bumper of the Cherokee, and in relation to room when I mount this on the trailer. I'm going to take this mounting plate that came with the winch. I'm going to weld it on here, bend it over the winch, and then add my solenoid pack, which is this. Add the solenoid onto the top of that plate, and then I'll have a little room so that I can punch a hole in it and put my, where is it? Where I can put my control cable in, which is this. So I'll put the control cable in, and that way I can plug in a remote or an internal control. And I've got the handheld here. It'll punch into that, and then I've got one that goes anywhere else. I'm not going to use that because I'm not going to have it in the Cherokee. If I'm going to be yanking or pulling anything, I'll be outside the vehicle, but it's nice to have. And so yeah, I'm going to put an L bracket up over this and then mount my goodies on there, and then the cabling. And I'm not going to use this battery disconnect switch, because what I'm going to have is so I'm not going to use the disconnect. I'm actually going to use these quick connectors. You kind of see them like on forklifts and stuff like that. And basically they connect together like this. See, they come apart. And so my power leads, a negative and a positive will go into one and come out the other one to the winch, and that'll be my disconnect. All right, so we have gotten the brakes on. Okay, the took about an hour and a half, and these brakes I got from Amazon. Comes with the backing plates, everything you need, and all the hardware, so that made it nice. And basically installed those like you would do any wheel bearing. Pack the wheel bearings with grease, and you're good to go. So looking at that, and on the other side they're done too. And so now I'm going to start the wiring and the deck and the cleaning up of the wheels are all going to be on the third video. And one of the things that I was looking at with these tires is I think I'm going to go with the eggshell white. I kind of like that. I used that on that Ford F-250 that I worked on, and it looked good. It's a good contrast with the black. I'm not so sure how long these, or how old these tires are going to hang in there. I'm already seeing some cracking and stuff, so we'll see if we can run these or not, or if I'm going to have to change them. All right, so let me get this finished up and posted so that you guys can watch it. Okay, make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget, Rock Lawrence Vintage Auto Parts. We make full-size Jeep parts, stuff that you can't find anywhere else.